So after our Instagram live, or at least my Instagram live with Vishal, I've now managed to get all members of Serpents of Pakhangba, and here we go. So let's start with the lady, of course. Introduce yourself and what you do in the band.
Hi, I'm Aruna Jade. I'm the vocalist and in charge of the ambient sections in Serpents of Pakhangba. Fidel?
Well, I'm Fidel Dely. I'm from Panama. I'm the in charge of drums, percussions, and trouble.
Hey, I'm Manas. I play bass and some didgeridoo and some effects. For Serpents of Pakhangba. Yes, it's my man.
All right, and only one person's left, so go for it.
Oh, hi, Vishal, J.Singh. I play the guitar synthesizer, and a little bit of songwriting in the band. Yeah, that's it.
Right. So
he pretty much does a lot of 80% of the things, by the way. Not
But I know I've heard from Vishal, and Vishal has been talking to me about the project for a while now. But let's hear it from your another side. How did all of you become part of this lineup? I'm very curious to know. Who was the first one who joined with Vishal? I think Manas, right?
Monster,
Yeah, actually, yeah. I mean, Vishal, we know each other for many years now, and we keep doing things like we try to figure out few stuff, produce music. Not for Pakhangba, that idea was not there, but we figured out we gel in a way. We understand each other temperament, musicality, and we respect each other in that space. And his brother from my hometown also, so we were anyways close. So we've always been formulating something. Let's do something. It's enough of all this. Let's do something. Let's do our kind of music. Let's do a thing which we love to play. But most of the time, we don't get to play. When I'm a sessionist, I play full-time sessions and all different live gigs and recordings. And usually I serve others. I make other songs mine and I play. I hardly get to do my things most of the cases. And I'm not someone who's a solo kind of a guy who will put a camera. I'm not that. I haven't never formulated that kind of space in my head. Just go alone and do something. I'm a bandsman always. I started playing for Soulmate. That was my first proper band. That's way back in 2000. So Vishal and we've been formulating this, and eventually time came. We come to the point yes, I think now we can give little time to this setup. And of course, Vishal's is a lot of his push and initiation. I'm also very lazy in a way, but it's his constant pinging, constant pushing. No, we have to do it. So we ended up we thought, chalo, we'll do it. And I think after that, let's let the boys and the girls say. I think that's how we started, at least both of us.
Fidel, I'm very curious. How did you come across both Vishal and Manas? What's the story there?
I remember when I was in my usual navigating on Facebook, and I added this guy. It's just these friend suggestions on Facebook. It's mutual friends and stuff. And I saw the post of Amok Symphony. It's hey, I know this band because back in Panama, I heard from Amok Symphony. And I was hey, do you know these guys? He's yeah, I am from Amok Symphony. I play guitar. It's oh. And we kept talking about it. That was in 2019 only. In 2018, sorry. And we kept talking about the idea of jamming and improvising. It's dude, you're in Mumbai, I'm in Delhi. Let's figure out something. And then I remember in November that year, November of 2018, I went after I got a day off from the gig I had in Mumbai with in the NCPA with Paddy and this group of Afro-Cuban music. Then I got a day off with my friend Arco, and we met, we had a beer, and we talked about music, and that's it. I mean, absolutely.
So,
The musical chemistry and the way we talk about the craft of making music was so different. I didn't even knew too much about what is the background of this guy. I know he plays. Of course, he can play. He played this amazing band on a music. But it's like, but this dude can play, but it can actually, like have the swag, have the storytelling. We kept talking about the concept of improvisation and music because I love improvising a lot. Because as Manas and I, both performers, we usually learn other people's music. We usually work for the song. We work for the group, the structure, what the things are. It's like, dude, I need an outlet, a creative outlet of creating music and taking it in ways we feel comfortable with ourselves projecting who we are, and then we can have that outlet of creating more emotive music outside of the usual structure and standardized idea of the music we play day to day. And it's like, dude, I mean, it's like the first jam that was in January of 2019. That was a magical experience. The chemistry was like, and yeah, so you get it.
yeah. So I know, but I still remember Vishal telling me about the project and stuff. So the last piece that came in place was you, Aruna. So how did you come across these three?
Okay, so I think it was Vishal who had shared that he has released this EP of another project. I wasn't aware of anything beyond Amok Symphony and his other commercial productions. So I got a notification from Bandcamp and his mailer, and I checked it out. And weirdly enough, a couple of days later, I get a call from him, and he's like, I have this project. And I was like, yeah, I heard. Very interesting stuff. So he's like, would you like to give it a shot doing vocals, these kind of vocals? And so my reference point was what Madhura had done on those two songs, which is honestly quite different from what I'm doing right now. But that was the reference I had in my head, and I was like, yeah, sure, I can do this. And then, Vishal and we started going back and forth. He shared some tracks, and he was like, what can you bring to this? What can you add to this? And I added some vocal layers and all, but then I asked, there's some scope for adding pads and ambience. Can I do that? And he was like, yeah, go for it. So I was like, that's the last thing I need is someone to key me in and say, oh, go crazy with ambiences. I'm a recovering padaholic. So he, encouraged me to, push the boundaries on what I can do vocally and musically even. He started asking me, do you want to try vocal, Mongolian throat singing? Do you want to give it a shot? And everything. I was like, yeah, I'll try. Yeah, I'll try this. I'll listen to that. I started, just trying it out, mimicking him. He's nudging me. I'm getting nudged. And before you know it, we have like about one entire proper song, another couple of improvised tracks, which sound improvised, but there's actually a lot of planning and structure to it. And then we start talking about getting everyone together in the jam room and doing a show. And there were some hilarious incidents about where our debut show would be, because a lot of people were interested in what Vishal is up to with his next project, but no one really knew the sound of the music, how heavy, soft, how intense or light is it gonna be. So most people with like from what was that place, Veranda? Someone even said that you guys should perform at Veranda, and I was like, what? No.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Veranda will be
Serpents of
But
Pakhangba.
hold that thought for a second, because I'm coming there. But you made a great segue into, like, you and Vishal working on it, and considering both Fidel and Manas's background in playing in bands and being session musicians, Vishal we know about also playing and doing a lot of commercial. So this clearly becomes like a creative outlet for yours, somewhere where you all can channel your creative energy. What was it like? I mean, going in, was there a kind of brief when you all went into jam that, this is what the rules are going to be, this is what it's going to be like? Or was it like, let's just get it out there and see where we lead? How did that go about? Tell me about that. And anyone take the lead on this?
Yeah, I'll say that. I'll answer to that. The first rehearsal that happened in 2018, I think it was November or December, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. And then it was just a random plan. It wasn't actually plan actually. What happened is I was looking for a vocalist, and before Aruna joined the band, we had a vocalist. Her name is Madhura Risley. So I found a vocal. So I found her singing in at a friend's place, and she was doing some like interesting vocal parts, which I was something that I was looking for. So I asked her, "Would you like to come over and have a rehearsal and jam and see, like, what is the outcome of the jam? And we're gonna record the whole jam, and we will see what kind of sensible parts we come up with, what kind of unwanted musical parts we come up with. So like, it just randomly go and like improvise as much as you can." So then we jammed for 2 days, like start from morning 9 or 10 until evening 7 or 8. And after that, there are some interesting sections that we heard, like listening to the recorded tapes over and over again, and taking few notes. This part makes sense. This part can be song number 2. This can be song number 3. Also, at the same time, I was looking at all the bandmates. Like I was observing Fidel's patterns and his determination when he has a mini percussion kit, but he was playing it like a proper drum kit, and he was making some amazing patterns out of few things, improvising on the spot. Like he was basically filling up the spaces here and there. Then Manas, sometimes he stick to just one pattern throughout the song, which makes the entire improvisation piece sound like a song. And then there's some few sections where we all are pretty much clueless. So Manas goes with his improvisation progression, and then he plays the same part twice, giving an indication that this could be the next pattern. Like remember, when all these things are happening, none of us are stopped in between. We just constantly playing and performing. So these kind of ideas, I noted that Manas has a different approach to a band's improvisation, a band's songwriting, and then Fidel has an approach of filling in here and there. The moment the dynamics goes softer, or if it starts sounding a little boring, Fidel makes it a little more interesting. And then Madhura, she included a lot of atmospheric vocals, tribal vocals, so it all worked out. It was a good jam. That was the first, would say, first initiative of Serpents of Pakhangba as a live band.
Yeah.
But then later on, things just did not work out because Madhura's visa was expired and she had to go back to UK, and some other family responsibilities started happening, and all these things. And then the most important factor in Serpents of Pakhangba's sound is for me, it's the female energy. It's the goddess speaking throughout into the music, because it's ritual, it's multi-genre, it's tribal, it's daredevil, it's punk, it's free jazz, it's everything. You can like call whatever you want. But the most important element in this band sound is the female vocals and the performance, of the female vocalist. So to find the kind of vocalist that I was looking for, a lot of auditions happened. I spoke to a jam with many different female vocalists, but it was literally very hard to find one, and it's things did not work out. And then Aruna came on the board. I still remember I sent her that small song, which is hardly like 2 minutes or 3 minutes of song. It was an instrumental. It was just one loop, which I composed based on my understanding with what Fidel plays, what his muscle memory is like, what Manas would play something on a piece like this. And then I shared that MP3 track to Aruna, and then she recorded some insane vocals. I was like, whoa, what is this? Serpents 2.0. Like, seriously, what is this? So it's like, my first impression was this is Mike Patton 2.0, born in India. Mike Patton rebirth as a girl. So me and Fidel and Manas, we all three heard the track, and we were like super, like amazed and impressed. Like let's do it. And after discovering Aruna's range of vocals and the kind of stuff, how versatile she is, and the kind of sound she is bringing into the songs, so the style have changed a little bit. It was like previously it was like 100% improvisation. After Aruna joined the band, it became a little like 50% control chaos, 50% uncontrolled chaos, like improvisation and planned parts. So that's how all things started taking shape. And I think as a result, we composed about 7 songs. Yeah. And that before releasing the album, before finalizing the song structures, luckily we got this offer to play at Control Alt Delete. And because it's very important to bring the energy into the band and to see how do we sound with these songs on the stage and how people absorb this kind of sound.
So I must interrupt you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I must interrupt you at this point because, if you think about it from a very Indian band perspective, and this is coming from someone who's seen bands over the last 10 odd years or even 15 years, in India, the mentality is, we'll record, we'll have something, and then we'll take it live and promote it or things like that. But this is a recent phenomena. But if you saw bands like in the earlier days, right, everyone kind of played their songs live, tested it, got booed, got thrown stuff on, but still persisted and that kind of thing. What was that mentality? Like Controlled Alt Delete, I know happened, but was it a very strategic decision that, hey, we should play these songs live, see the reaction, and then let's get into the studio? And before you answer this, I'm going to add something from the Instagram live, which I want a quick reaction from all of you. So a friend of both Vishal and I, who watched y'all at Control Alt Delete, he was talking about watching y'all live. And I don't know if you'll notice the crowd, but he said somebody turned around to him during the set and said, "Bro, kya genre hai ye? What are these guys playing?" So tell us about the whole experience. I mean, starting off with your approach to taking the gig live, and then the experience of playing the music live.
It's see what happens in a band, and especially in a band like Serpents, where things are like divided as an improvisation band and a band of who's playing planned sections. But in this case, it's very important to understand interaction. Like there's the reason why it's called a theatrical act, like somewhere in between. You must have noticed that in CAD also. So I was randomly talking to Fidel in a gibberish is like, so all these things, it's kind of a
Yo no sé de qué me estás hablando, chico. Yo no sé de qué tú vas, yo no sé de qué tú hablas.
so there's all these things. It's kind of a like Aruna is looking at me, staring at me with bigger eyes, and I'm like bringing the things down, and then me giving some hand signs, and Manas slowly shifting to the didgeridoo, and so it's the whole experience. It's we're still working on it. We need more rehearsals. We need to jam sit more often for that. So for this kind of act, it's very important to see if we're presenting it to an audience. Putting you listen to a song in a like in a tape or in a earphone or in your iPod, anywhere. If you listen to the song, it has a different feel to it when you listen to a song like a studio version. But when you listen to the same song, or say if you perform the song on the stage, it's a different feeling altogether. Sometimes a lot of songs that sounds super amazing as a studio version, when the same band perform the same song live, it sounds very dull, it sounds very like boring. In fact, sometimes the musicians are performing on the stage, they themselves feel like, oh, that's quite lame, man, it doesn't even feel right. uh, for me, it was very important to understand if this is one section of the song, if you play it for 8 bars, or should we play it only 4 bars, or should we play it for 12 bars? Are we getting tired after this? Or if after this section comes, should we bring an ambient section so that we get some time to breathe in, breathe out? So all these things, it makes sense. It doesn't give you full impact in the rehearsal room. You need an audience to interact. It's a give and take of energies. So the CAD was quite a good experiment to understand the songwriting and how it should be in the album. Yeah, Fidel.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and I think the four of us believe in music being more of an experience that we project and rehearse to project with a given plot rather than just the mere act of just performing a choreography. So all this interaction needs to happen organically in a way, in the same way you meet your girlfriend and you start making out because you are in love. It's an experience. You don't rehearse and you don't plan these things. You don't follow a guideline. It's boring. And I mean, sometimes for the purpose of work, that's what we do 24/7. And it's that's part of the creative outlet of it. Is like we are often too used to the idea of controlling what's going to happen and the idea of what we project. But at the same time, it's like we have in this project we have also the opportunity of being surprised and understand that it's not only a choreography but a communication that happens organically between the four of us. We listen actively to each other, and that kind of communication is what we project. I think in the songwriting process we have an amazing way of creating the perfect plot to have these four actors, these four elements taking over, and everyone can be. I mean, it's like watching a play with four actors, and at any moment the spotlight comes to one of the actors of the whole or the whole scene at the same time. It can happen in the twist of a finger, and that's what we found more exciting ourselves about making this music. Some elements needs to be constant. Some elements can be chaotic, and all this chaos is happening in constant communication. I think it's always a negotiation between knowing this is supposed to happen now, but it's like we are getting there. Okay, are you ready? So it needs to happen organically. And since the beginning of this band, we've been having working offline on voice notes, on sending audios, and it's like, okay, here's the homework. let's listen to the homework. And it's like whenever we have the time, the physical way of being the four of us together in a room, we have to come with the story learned, but then we have to perform the story. Knowing a joke and telling the joke is two different things, or three different things at the same time. And it's lovely that it needs to happen organically. It's a total challenge for the four of us. It's sometimes breathtaking, it's sometimes frustrating, but it's a constant challenge for the four of us. The way we are used to work, and the spontaneous letting go of this comfort of working in that way. Yeah, sorry.
Uh, but now I want to hear from you, Aruna and Manas. Considering that all of y'all are musicians, have been musicians for a while, worked on your individual projects. How when it comes to something like this, and Vishal and Fidel both talked about this, that y'all play live, but at the same time you'll go and play in the studio and you'll rehearse and stuff. Now those are two different things, right? Uh, how tempting is it that sometimes that when you get in the studio, considering your knowledge and everything that you do, is that let's just go crazy, irrespective of whether we can play, because that temptation is always there with technology, right? And how do you kind of resist that or work around with that? I want to hear what you all say.
Manas,
Okay. Yeah, that temptation is always there, man. Especially now, like you can do manipulate so many things digitally. Once you have, thing can be done. So yeah, but I don't know. Somehow we kept it so organic, as much as possible organic. Yeah, that it's not that we recorded a lot of stuff together. We couldn't because Fidel is in Delhi, here, Aruna is there. So that thing was always there. But most of the cases, I think we all went real, whatever the sound we have, whatever. In a way, for me, I can say like this is me. I mean, that's how I reacted to the music. Anyways, Vishal's music I always following about, and like I know when he is coming up with a call like let's do one more song. I have a little scratch. He used to say he keeps sending me stuff like one bass loop, some upright bass loop, just keep working on something like that. So whenever he's sending something, it's like a danger sign. Your sleep's gonna go. You're gonna go. Oh shit! Now I have to learn. I have to figure out something around these. It's never easy. Like I mean, music is not tough or easy, but it's not like scratching your ears and playing. It's a challenge, and I love challenge also at them. He also gave a lot of effort. Most of the things I recorded in room, a lot of parts, bass parts we recorded here. We didn't even go to studio to record bass. Actually, we never recorded anything on. We were on Can. He used to get his lab. He comes from Thane, and like he spend a couple of hours. We chill out. We talk. We play some game. He's there, and we record one song, maybe a chunk of a song. For me, it worked out like that. Man. I never really went to a studio to record Pakhangba material. So I was never been in that mindset, like going, So basically, we were on ourselves only pressing the record and recording. Okay, pre-roll, like 4-bar pre-roll. Okay, let's do it. Recorded like that, and that's all one of it. And that gave us a lot of, for me, sonically, it gave a lot of confidence to me also. Like, I mean, it is possible that if you have intention clear and your intention on your equipment is clear, and you can record at your home also. You don't have to really go to a luxurious or big studio record. Maybe that will give you another impression. I mean, you're in a studio, the clock is going, 1 hour we have to finish. When you're recording at home with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee together, I mean, you don't look at the watch. Like you said, we can do it one more session, no problem. The time is not a bar thing. So that worked for me, this setup. Because it's not possible for me, like it wouldn't be that easy to record everything and going to a studio, unknown studio or someone I don't know very well, and that kind of material. And the pop summer thing, which we already predictable stuff, is okay. Go to a studio if you don't know the recording, you go everything together. And when we meet with Fidel, we just met we had just one riff. So we just played for 2 hours maybe for this one riff. That's where we've come to know that like we can do things together. Then me, Fidel, Vishal, we just did one riff for 2 hours. Like, this has some power in that riff. It's like not just a couple of notes. I think so. Yeah. I hope I'm making sense.
No, completely. I want to know because, like, considering three of you had some kind of process in there, right? And then you had, Aruna come in. How was that feeling? Because, for someone who comes into a process of sorts, and then you're given your free hand, how did that work? And if you could kind of lead into how it worked with the writing of this album.
Addressing your earlier question about how tempting it is to go batshit crazy with studio effects without considering how you're going to create it live. Vishal very early on told me, listen, Baba, I know you have a lot of ideas, but only do what you can do live. So I told him, yeah, sure. And I did a lot of things. And then after hearing those things, he was like, are you sure you're going to be able to do this live? And I was like, yeah, I have it figured out. And, time and again, he kept asking me, are you sure? Because these are like 5 different voices I'm hearing. How are you going to switch through? And there was one part, I remember his most favorite part is where there is this mean ass scream that comes. And it quickly transitions into a low drone. And what I had done is I had recorded it in 2 tapes and I had just crossfaded it. And he was like, don't do that. Because on stage, you're not going to get to crossfade it. Okay, so give another take and make sure you're able to transition that. So it took some practice. I was able to do that, but I gave another take and he used that. So in terms of, like, we kind of set our own ethics on that, like unsaid ethics that, okay, let's not put in there something that is going to be bloody difficult to recreate live. And once we went into the jam room, obviously the guys got to see what my setup was like, and it was the first time for me as well, working with such a complicated setup where I'm switching between the voices, and I still don't have the right equipment to actually pull that off in a very smooth way, but that's okay. It can be figured out. But yeah, and then it was when I went into the jam room and I saw that these guys already have a chemistry and they have the mutual understanding of how long some section's gonna go on for and not. Initially, I was completely lost. I didn't quite catch on the pulse. Like, that was definitely 15 and a half bars, man. How am I supposed to remember that?
Yeah.
And after a point, I just found my North Pole in the band, which is Manusda, because I was like, okay, I can follow him. And in a couple of jam sessions, it wasn't that much of an effort anymore. But I remember really, really paying attention to him because I knew he had that certain way of thinking, that he had a way about transitioning very smoothly throughout the parts.
Let's talk about your album. The title, at least I saw on the files that you sent me, is Ima. So is that the album title? What's the message about the album? What are you trying to convey through it? Because it's a variety of music that's there. So who wants to take the lead on it?
I will say on this, guys.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Initially, still now, the album doesn't have any name. I would rather say it's a self-titled album, because if you put a name, then somehow like a one singular term or a concept becomes a part of the whole song. Now, in this case, the self-titled album, we have about 7 songs. Let me tell you this. First of all, this is not really concept album at all. It looks like concept album, but it was not exactly planned to become like 7 songs connected to each other. But if you listen to the songs from first song to the 7th song, it tells you a lot of stories, different stories with different perspective. Like person A can find it as a background score to some of his own experience. Person B would say it's a different experience for him. But the most important thing, the most important message I would say, uh, which is we're trying to like talk about in this album is uh, respecting the mother nature, the cutting of trees and forest, respecting the tribes. They want to live the way, I mean, they want to live the way always lived in the last 1,000 years, 100 years, whatever. And the whole capitalism who, is still till date affecting a lot of tribes, they're torturing the tribes. There's so many informations. Their culture is so rich. A lot of things are not even available on the internet till date. Like the whole Manipuri, the Meitei history, what we read on the internet is entirely not true. So I come from a Meitei background. From my father's side, I'm a Meitei. Manipuri, basically. So, what I'm trying to put a message here is that it's uh, it's a free form. First of all, it's a free improvisation. Means nature is completely free improvisation. We don't know what's going to happen next. We all like as a tribe. If you actually talk to a person who's from a tribe, who's from the village people, uh, they live on Mother Nature has to offer, whatever things going to happen in the future. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. So improvisation is something like you take action based on what your present time is, and you take action every time looking at your surroundings. And at the moment, if I'm very calm, next moment I'll be very pissed off. I'll be very happy. So this is how also kind of my perception towards life, where uh, in especially in avant-garde style of music, the things sometimes it means a lot, sometimes it doesn't mean anything, sometimes it's just a bunch of noise. It's very important to understand that to actually understand this kind of music, you have to know one very small thing, that whatever you are, whoever you are, you have to accept yourself the way you are. And if this thought comes to you, you're going to accept everything, anything that is happening around you, around the world. And it's better let it happen naturally than we put a man trying to control the situations. So I think that is one of the most important messages that we are trying to put into the music. I'm pretty sure Manas has maybe a different approach. Aruna must be having a different approach. Fidel must be having a different approach. But eventually, we four are different guys, but we are together. That's the whole point.
So, if you don't mind, I'd like to direct this towards Manas. I mean, like when you look at the song titles, right? The forest belongs to the Maibi.
Maybe.
Yeah. Then you've got mountain spirits. Coming from a background, I mean, you said you and Vishal know each other. How does it kind of translate into this music? Was this something that a concept that you all had been thinking of before, or is this something that came as a collective to all of you?
Okay. Yeah, what I feel like, yeah. First of all, we are from Northeast. That's our roots, and we are long times we are out of Northeast because of our whatever perspective, music, and our projects and whatever. We are not right now. For me, this is like one of the things to give back to my native people, something for the keep the roots alive, and even we want those culture to come out to the rest of the world. Those grooves, those pentatonics, amazing melodies, beautiful, simplified, simple melodies which everyone can feel and touches everyone. I think that is what I am getting out of this band. That was my initial intention, and still it's on in a way. And yeah, what else I can say about Northeast?
Sorry. I forgot one very important point. Peter,
Sure.
you must have noticed the lyrics. There are two songs in the album which are in Manipuri language.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to come to that.
Sung by a girl who is not Manipuri at all. It also shows the respect and the mutual understanding and the cultural exchange. And I think the way she understood the lyrics, the whole motive behind it, the way she presented it into her own style, and with her, because she comes from a different community and she includes her own influence. It's a very amazing experience to see people can exchange cultures as well.
I I should add, as the Panamanian in the band, that I feel the connection. Yeah, the connection is also universal in the message we transmit with this music. Um, I strongly disagree with the idea of this is not a concept album. I think everything can have a concept if you look with wide lens enough. At the same time, is every song individually has a different take. Because you can't label the music, but you can connect with the main idea that this music has an organic feel to it, and it has a resemblance to nature. That's a symbolic, spiritual, cultural message that I can relate to coming from the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
And yet, there are two things in nature that are common to all the ancestral cultures, and it's like the fact the more you look at nature, you understand that nature has its constants. You have the constants of the sun and the moon cycles. You have the constants of the weather and the winds and the currents and everything. That is very constant in terms of if you look long enough, you will see the constant message of nature. And at the same time, everything in nature changes so fast, and we can't predict. No matter how much we think we can harness the power of nature for our own benefit or for our selfish purposes, thinking like we are the owners of nature. We belong to nature, not like nature belongs to us. We belong together.
Right.
And I think that's part of the message of the songs individually. Collectively, for me, the whole message of a reconnection to the organic roots of where we come from, it's beautiful. At the same time, this music is also very futuristic. If I dare to add in that sense, it doesn't has a time or era or structure that tells you like this music sounds like the 80s or 70s or 2040 or anything like that. I think that's the beauty of being avant-garde and let's say weird and too artsy in that sense. It's like you don't connect we try to connect to a different reality, a surreal reality, because avant-garde music connects you with the surreal part of the human experience, the spiritual one, the mystical one. That will be my thought about it. Aruna?
Okay. Wait, I'm getting there because you've kind of built, and I want Aruna to start off with this question. So here's the fun part and I have two questions now. So I want Aruna to start off and four of you to go one. Let's limit it now to one sentence each. That's why it's going to be fun and tough. One sentence each.
Oh.
If somebody had never heard your self-titled album, Serpents of Pakhangba, right? What would you say? How would you describe it in one sentence only? So, Aruna, let's go with you.
It's a bunch of folk tales told in the most interesting avant-garde style that's gonna make you imagine and trip on shit.
Nice. Let's go. Come on, Manas.
Fidel.
One sentence, one line, huh?
One line. Uh, I'm like Maradona. I can't have it in one line. Uh,
I think SOP is a headrush. It's a tension release space of music with a lot of dissonance and consonance and theatrical, poetic, folk, melody, folk, amalgamation of various genres. So
That's a
in
long
one,
sentence.
package.
So since Fidel
I
wants
think I
to,
have a phrase.
okay, let's go
Yeah,
for it.
I think I have the phrase. An organic caress of an organic caress of an iron hand of the nature.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, come on, Vishal. Now the
Organic
pressure's
caress
on
of the
you.
iron hand.
I would say it's a tornado made of controlled chaos and uncontrolled chaos.
Not bad. Okay. So now that we've talked all about the music, the album, and everything, here's the most fun question. And this is just for a few individually. If y'all were not musicians and playing or doing what y'all do, what is an alternate career y'all would have been in?
I have like so many.
Go for it. Whoever thinks of it. One career, please. Otherwise-
Tracker,
Sorry.
mountain tracker.
Mountain
Trekking.
trekker. Okay, wow. That's fun. Go ahead, Vishal.
For me, I would say spiritual guide in the mountains.
You still can.
Oh,
Fidel looks stumped, so Aruna, go for it. Go on.
Actually, if it weren't for music, I think I'd be in public service because my parents were pretty serious about getting me in IAS and I was like, I'll never go for IAS. I would be in IPS. So yeah, I'd be in public service, maybe in defense or something. I
Oh,
don't know. But I decided that I wanted to lead a very creative life, and I don't. It's a difficult life. I know people who are in public service and in defense, and I'm more of a clown, so I decided I'll tap into that.
okay. Come on, Fidel, wrap this up.
I'm myself a dropout of advertising studies and social studies. I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be a public communicator, and I don't like to talk in public, but I want to. I used to love to create things, but I also, I was told I have to have a steady job, so I had to study something when it was like I have to be creative. It's like I don't want to I don't want to answer that question. It's like I mean maybe I would have been a librarian or a chess teacher, librarian or chess teacher, something like that, something those lines. Because I don't like sports. I don't like math. I don't like reading. But it's like when I was a kid, I only wanted to do like three things. Uh, Used to arm and disarm stuff, have a lot of friends, and make and see people happy around me. And it's like, dude, after 20 years of doing it, it's like, dude, as a drummer, I every day I'm putting things together and putting things together. I have a lot of friends, and I try to make people happy around me with what I do. So
Awesome.
I can't imagine something else. Maybe again, a
can see
librarian or a teacher. But
Seriously,
I'm still
how
that
does
kid.
one drop out of
I don't know why I
advertising?
dropped out of advertising. I dropped out of advertising. But yeah,
All right, guys. So it's been a
I
lot
hate
of
things
fun.
with yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Someone is saying.
One thing is there, but in this band there's another thing also. Fidel and me, we play chess,
Oh,
and we play like 50 chess. Like you have
Yes.
to think about one move. So one of our on from March maybe or February, we are like still playing, bro.
Yeah. Manas is
That's
Manas
nice.
is been kicking my ass, so I be like, I love playing chess. I want to make a band where we have chess boards and we are playing and making chess moves while playing.
See, idea.
That they don't
I
have to
will
work hard
arrange-
to be experimental. This is the normal. This is 0, 0, 0, 0. You know, on the
Yes.
XY axis.
Mhm.
This is the base coordinate.
All right, guys. So it's been really fun, and I'm gonna release this before the album is out. So all the best for the album release, and hopefully
Thank you,
I
sir.
see you. I hopefully see you live before the end of the year.
Yes,
I hope so. Yes.
yes.